Pay attention to this. When someone plays hot and cold with you, ignores you, or keeps you guessing, the instinct is to chase, to explain, to prove your worth. But that instinct is exactly what weakens your position. From a Stoic perspective, your power begins the moment you stop reacting emotionally to inconsistent behavior. Hot and cold behavior is not mystery. It is inconsistency. And inconsistency should never be rewarded with attention, effort, or emotional investment. If someone truly values you, their behavior is steady. Not perfect, but steady. They don't disappear and reappear depending on their mood. They don't make you question where you stand. So what do you do instead? First, you detach from the outcome. You stop trying to control how they feel about you. You stop needing their validation. Your focus shifts back to your own discipline, your goals, your purpose. Second, you mirror energy, not emotions. If they become distant, you do not chase. You step back. Not out of spite, but out of self-respect. You give people the same level of access they give you. Third, you remove the reward system. Attention is a reward. Constant replies, emotional reactions, long explanations, these feed the behavior. When you withdraw unnecessary attention, the dynamic changes. Fourth, you become comfortable with silence. Silence is powerful. It communicates boundaries without arguments. It shows you are not desperate for connection. Fifth, you set internal standards. Not rules for them, but standards for yourself. You decide what behavior you tolerate, and what you don't. And when those standards are crossed, you act calmly, without drama. Understand this clearly: people repeat what works. If inconsistency keeps you engaged, it will continue. If it stops working, it fades. This is not about manipulation. It is about discipline. It is about refusing to participate in emotional games. You don't win by playing harder. You win by stepping out of the game entirely. When you become steady, focused, and emotionally controlled, you become difficult to manipulate. And that changes everything. Some will adjust their behavior to match your standard. Others will fall away. Both outcomes are in your favor. Because the goal is not to hold on to people who confuse you. The goal is to align with people who respect you without needing to be taught. Carry yourself with quiet confidence. Speak less. Observe more. React less. Decide carefully. And remember, your attention is your most valuable currency. Spend it where it is respected, not where it is tested. Stay with this. The moment you stop chasing clarity from someone who thrives on confusion, you regain control of your time, your emotions, and your direction. You must understand the difference between interest and attention. Someone can give you attention without having real interest. Attention is easy. It comes in short bursts, messages, compliments, sudden warmth. But interest is consistent. It shows up without being forced. Do not confuse temporary excitement with genuine intent. When someone goes cold, most people panic. They overthink, they replay conversations, they assume they did something wrong. But a disciplined mind asks a different question. What does this pattern reveal? Patterns never lie. If someone repeatedly withdraws, creates distance, or only shows up when it suits them, that is not a signal to try harder. It is information. And information is meant to guide your decisions, not your emotions. So you slow down. You stop giving instant access to your time and energy. You become selective. You make people earn consistency from you the same way you expect consistency from them. This is where most fail. They say they value respect, but they tolerate disrespect. They say they want consistency, but they reward inconsistency. Your actions must align with your standards. If someone ignores you, you do not confront immediately out of emotion. You observe. You give space. You let their behavior speak fully before you respond. And when you respond, it is calm, direct, and without emotional weight. Because emotional reactions reveal dependency. And dependency reduces your leverage. Another principle: never over-explain yourself. The more you try to justify your actions, your feelings, your intentions, the more you place yourself in a position of seeking approval. You do not need approval to maintain your standards. Silence, distance, and calm behavior communicate far more than long explanations ever will. Also understand this: not every situation needs to be fixed. Some situations are meant to be left. Walking away is not weakness. It is clarity in action. It shows that you value your peace more than temporary connection. And peace is not negotiable. When you stop tolerating games, your environment changes. The people around you either rise to your level or remove themselves from your life. That is not loss. That is alignment. You are not here to decode mixed signals. You are here to build a life that does not depend on them. Stay grounded. Stay observant. Stay disciplined. And most importantly, stay in control of yourself. Remember this clearly. Your strongest position is emotional independence. When your mood, your focus, and your peace are no longer controlled by someone else's behavior, you become stable. And stability is power. Most people lose control because they attach too quickly. They invest deeply before consistency is proven. They give priority to someone who has not earned it. You must reverse that. Let time reveal character. Let actions prove intent. Do not rush to label something meaningful before it has shown itself to be. Patience is not passive. It is strategic. When you are patient, you observe without pressure. You see patterns without being blinded by emotion. You make decisions based on reality, not hope. Another principle: protect your attention. Where your attention goes, your energy follows. If you constantly think about someone who is inconsistent, you are investing in confusion. Redirect that focus. Put your energy into your work, your growth, your physical discipline, your purpose. Build a life that is full without needing someone else to complete it. Because the more complete you are on your own, the less tolerance you have for anything that disrupts your peace. And that changes your standards. You no longer chase. You attract. You no longer react. You choose. You no longer accept uncertainty as normal. You expect clarity. And if clarity is not given, you create it through your actions, by stepping back, by setting distance, by moving forward without hesitation. Do not be afraid to lose people who only show up when it is convenient for them. Be more concerned about losing yourself by tolerating what you know is beneath your standard. Discipline is not just about what you do. It is about what you refuse. Refuse inconsistency. Refuse emotional manipulation. Refuse to explain your worth to anyone. You are not here to convince. You are here to live with intention. And when you live this way, something powerful happens. You become calm under pressure. You become clear in confusion. You become steady when others are unpredictable. That is how you flip the script. Not by changing them, but by mastering yourself. Never forget this. Respect is not something you ask for. It is something your behavior demands. When you tolerate mixed signals, delayed replies, empty promises, and emotional inconsistency, you silently teach people how to treat you. But when you become firm in your standards, calm in your reactions, and willing to walk away, everything changes. You don't need to raise your voice. You don't need to argue. You don't need to prove a point. Your absence becomes the message. Another key principle: stop seeking closure from people who create confusion. Closure is not something they give you. It is something you decide. The moment you see a repeated pattern that goes against your standards, that is your answer. Waiting for a perfect explanation only keeps you stuck. Clarity comes from action, not words. So you move differently. You stop checking your phone constantly. You stop overanalyzing every message. You stop making excuses for behavior that clearly shows a lack of respect. Instead, you become grounded in your own life. You wake up with purpose. You train your body. You sharpen your mind. You build something meaningful. Because a focused man has no time to chase uncertainty. And here's the truth most people avoid. Not everyone who comes into your life is meant to stay. Some people come to test your discipline. Some come to reveal your weaknesses. And some come to teach you the value of your own standards. Learn the lesson, but don't hold on to the person. Growth requires separation from what disrupts your peace. Also understand this: attraction grows in space, not pressure. When you pull back and focus on yourself, you create space for people to either step up or step out. Either way, you win. Because you are no longer forcing anything. You are allowing reality to show itself. And reality, when observed without emotion, is always clear. Stay disciplined. Stay silent when necessary. Stay focused on becoming better, not bitter. Because bitterness keeps you stuck in the past, but discipline moves you forward. At the end of the day, your life is a reflection of what you tolerate and what you enforce. Choose wisely. Understand this deeply. The moment you stop needing someone's attention is the moment you become attractive in a different way, calm, grounded, and in control. Neediness creates pressure. And pressure pushes people away. But self-control creates space. And space reveals truth. If someone values you, they will step forward without being chased. If they don't, they will drift away without resistance. Both outcomes give you clarity. Another principle you must hold on to: never compete for attention. The moment you feel like you are being compared, tested, or placed in a position where you must prove your worth, you have already lowered your standard. You do not compete. You select. You choose who earns access to your time, your presence, and your energy. And selection requires discipline. Because sometimes the person you want is not the person who meets your standard. And that is where most people fail. They let emotion override judgment. You must be different. You must be able to walk away from what feels good but is not good for you. That is strength. Also, learn to read effort, not words. Words are easy. Promises are easy. Apologies are easy. Effort is not. Effort shows in consistency. It shows in respect for your time. It shows in how someone communicates, how they show up, and how they maintain connection. When effort drops, pay attention. Do not chase it. Do not question it repeatedly. Observe it, accept it, and adjust your behavior accordingly. Because your response teaches people what is acceptable. And finally, build a life that makes these situations irrelevant. When your days are filled with purpose, growth, discipline, and progress, you no longer have the time or desire to entertain emotional games. You become too focused to be distracted. Too grounded to be manipulated. Too clear to be confused. That is the real goal. Not to control others, but to master yourself so completely that no one else's inconsistency can disturb your peace. Stay sharp. Stay disciplined. Stay in control. Lock this in. You are not confused. You are observing something you don't want to accept. Confusion often comes from ignoring clear patterns because you're emotionally invested. But once you remove emotion, the truth becomes simple. Inconsistency means low priority. Delayed effort means low interest. Mixed signals mean unclear intent. And unclear intent should never receive your full attention. So you simplify everything. You stop reading between the lines. You stop creating stories in your head. You focus only on what is real: actions, consistency, effort. This keeps you grounded. Another principle: control your pace. When someone is hot and cold, they try to control the rhythm of the interaction. Fast, slow, close, distant. You take that control back by slowing everything down. You don't rush to reply. You don't rush to meet. You don't rush to invest emotionally. You move with intention, not impulse. This forces the dynamic to stabilize. Because now, it's no longer based on their mood, it's based on your discipline. And discipline is predictable. Consistency is powerful. When you are consistent in your behavior, people know where they stand with you. There is no confusion. No guessing. And that alone sets you apart. Because most people are reactive. You are not. You are measured. You are deliberate. You are calm. Also, understand the value of detachment. Detachment is not about being cold or distant. It is about not being controlled. You can care without losing control. You can be interested without becoming dependent. You can engage without attaching your self-worth to the outcome. That is real strength. And when you operate from that level, something shifts. You stop fearing loss. You stop chasing validation. You stop reacting to every change in behavior. You become steady. And steady people are rare. They are respected. They are trusted. They are difficult to replace. So instead of trying to figure someone else out, focus on mastering your own behavior. That is always within your control. And that is where your real power lies. Stay disciplined. Stay focused. Stay unshaken. Ingrain this. Your value does not rise and fall based on how someone treats you. If someone becomes distant, it does not reduce your worth. If they ignore you, it does not make you less. Their behavior reflects their mindset, not your value. When you understand this, you stop internalizing rejection. You stop asking, "What did I do wrong?" And you start asking, "Does this align with my standards?" That single shift protects your confidence. Another principle: don't reward temporary effort. Sometimes, after going cold, a person returns with sudden attention, more messages, more interest, more energy. Most people get excited and forget everything that happened before. You don't. You stay grounded. You observe whether the change is consistent or just another cycle. Because real change is steady. It doesn't come in short bursts. It sustains over time. So you remain calm. You don't rush back into the same level of investment. You let them prove stability before you respond with trust. Trust is earned slowly, but it can be lost quickly. Protect it. Also, avoid emotional negotiations. Never try to bargain for better treatment by explaining how much you care, how loyal you are, or how much effort you give. That approach lowers your position. People respect what you enforce, not what you beg for. If something doesn't meet your standard, you adjust your behavior, not your dignity. Distance, silence, and reduced access communicate far more than emotional words ever will. And here's something most overlook. Discipline must be consistent, not selective. You cannot be strong one day and reactive the next. You cannot set standards and then ignore them when you feel lonely. Consistency in your behavior is what builds self-respect. And self-respect is what others recognize. Without it, nothing else holds. So you train yourself daily. To think clearly. To act calmly. To respond, not react. To walk away when necessary. And to stay when something is truly aligned. This is not about perfection. It is about control. Control over your emotions. Control over your decisions. Control over your direction. Because once you control yourself, no external behavior can destabilize you. And that is how you remain unshaken, no matter who comes or goes. Stay focused. Stay disciplined. Stay grounded in your standards. Hold on to this. You don't lose people by having standards. You lose people by abandoning them. Every time you ignore what you know is wrong, every time you accept less than you deserve, you move further away from your own center. And once you lose that, everything feels unstable. So you return to discipline. You return to clarity. You return to self-respect. Another principle: stop chasing potential. Potential is not reality. It is an idea of what someone could be, not what they consistently show you. You deal with what is real. If someone has potential but continues to act in ways that create confusion, distance, or instability, then that potential has no value in your life. Consistency is the only proof that matters. Also, understand emotional timing. When someone pulls away, that is not the moment to move closer. That is the moment to pause. To give space. To observe without interfering. Because when you rush into fixed distance, you train them to expect that you will always close the gap. And that keeps the cycle alive. Instead, you allow distance to reveal truth. If they return with clarity and consistency, you evaluate it calmly. If they don't, you move forward without hesitation. No chasing. No forcing. Just clear decisions. Another key: don't personalize everything. Not every action is about you. Sometimes people are inconsistent because they lack discipline. Sometimes they are confused within themselves. Sometimes they simply do not value what you offer. Whatever the reason, your responsibility remains the same: maintain your standard. Because your life cannot be built on trying to fix or understand everyone else. It must be built on controlling yourself. And finally, remember this. Peace is the ultimate goal. Not attention. Not validation. Not temporary excitement. Peace. A calm mind. A clear direction. A life that feels stable, focused, and intentional. Anything that disrupts that repeatedly is not worth holding on to. No matter how attractive it looks in the moment. Choose peace over chaos. Choose discipline over impulse. Choose clarity over confusion. And most importantly, choose yourself, every single time. Stay sharp. Stay grounded. Stay in control. Etch this into your mindset. You are not here to be liked by everyone. You are here to be respected by the right people. When you seek to be liked, you compromise. You overextend. You tolerate behavior that goes against your standards just to keep someone around. But when you choose respect, everything becomes clear. Respect requires boundaries. Respect requires discipline. Respect requires the courage to walk away when necessary. Another principle: stop overvaluing chemistry. Chemistry can feel intense, exciting, almost addictive. But intensity without stability leads to chaos. What you should value is alignment. Alignment in values. Alignment in effort. Alignment in communication. Because alignment builds something real. Chemistry alone only creates moments. Do not trade long-term peace for short-term excitement. Also, understand the power of restraint. You don't need to respond to everything. You don't need to react to every message, every mood shift, every change in tone. Restraint gives you control. It allows you to choose your response instead of being driven by impulse. And when your responses are intentional, your presence becomes more powerful. People begin to feel that you are not easily moved. And that changes how they approach you. Another truth: your time is limited. Every moment you spend overthinking someone's behavior is a moment you are not investing in your own growth. That is a poor trade. Redirect that energy. Build your skills. Strengthen your body. Expand your knowledge. Create something meaningful. Because the more you invest in yourself, the less you depend on external validation. And independence creates strength. Finally, accept this without resistance. Some people will only realize your value when you are no longer available. That is not your concern. Your concern is to act in alignment with your standards now, not to wait for someone else's realization later. You don't need to prove your worth through absence. You prove it through consistency, discipline, and self-respect, whether they are there or not. So move forward without hesitation. No looking back. No second-guessing. No lowering your standards out of fear. Just clarity, discipline, and steady progress. Stay focused. Stay composed. Stay in control. Fix this in your mind. You don't build strong connections by tolerating weak behavior. Every time you accept inconsistency, you dilute the quality of your relationships. You train yourself to settle, and you train others to give less. That cycle must end with you. Another principle: stop explaining your boundaries. You don't need long conversations to justify why you expect respect, consistency, and clarity. Your boundaries are not debates. They are decisions. You either enforce them through your actions, or you weaken them through your words. Choose action. Also, understand emotional discipline in real time. When you feel the urge to double-text, pause. When you feel the urge to chase, pause. When you feel the urge to over-explain, pause. That pause is where your power lives. Because in that space, you choose discipline over impulse. And every time you choose discipline, you strengthen your self-respect. Another truth: attention is addictive. When someone gives it, then takes it away, your mind starts craving it more. Not because it's valuable, but because it's inconsistent. Recognize this pattern. What you are feeling is not always genuine interest. Sometimes it is simply the pull of unpredictability. Do not confuse the two. Stay grounded in reality. Also, build internal validation. If you rely on someone else to feel confident, wanted, or valued, you will always be vulnerable to their behavior. But when your confidence comes from your own standards, your own discipline, your own growth, no one can control how you feel. That is freedom. And freedom changes everything. You become calm in situations that used to disturb you. You become clear where you used to feel confused. You become steady where you used to react. And that steadiness is what sets you apart. Finally, remember this. You are not trying to win someone over. You are deciding if they deserve a place in your life. That shift changes your entire mindset. It puts you back in control. It removes desperation. It replaces uncertainty with clarity. So move with intention. Observe more than you speak. Act more than you explain. And walk away without hesitation when something does not align. Stay disciplined. Stay focused. Stay unshaken. Burn this into your behavior. You don't get tested by life to fail. You get tested to reveal your level of discipline. When someone goes hot and cold, ignores you, or creates emotional distance, that is not just a situation, it is a test of your control. Do you react, or do you remain steady? Do you chase, or do you step back? Do you lower your standards, or do you reinforce them? Your answer defines your outcome. Another principle: stop fearing disconnection. Most people hold on too tightly because they are afraid of losing the connection. But that fear is what keeps them stuck in unhealthy dynamics. You must become comfortable with letting things end. Because anything that depends on you abandoning your standards is not worth keeping. Let it go. Calmly. Silently. Completely. Also, understand the difference between interest and attachment. Interest is controlled. It allows you to observe, to evaluate, to move with clarity. Attachment is reactive. It makes you anxious, impatient, and dependent on outcomes. Stay in control of your interest. Do not fall into attachment too quickly. Take your time. Let people reveal themselves fully before you invest deeply. Another truth: consistency is attractive. Not loud effort. Not dramatic gestures. Not temporary intensity. Consistency. When you are consistent in your mindset, your behavior, and your standards, people either respect it or they remove themselves. Both outcomes serve you. Because you are no longer dealing with confusion. You are dealing with clarity. And clarity allows you to move forward without hesitation. Also, stop seeking reassurance from inconsistent people. If someone is unsure about you, distant with you, or unclear with you, asking them for reassurance will not fix the problem. It will only lower your position. Instead, you observe their behavior and make your decision. You choose distance. You choose discipline. You choose peace. Because peace is always the priority. At the end of it all, remember this. Your life improves the moment you stop negotiating with behavior that disturbs your mind. No arguments. No emotional debates. Just quiet decisions backed by strong actions. That is how you flip the script. That is how you stay in control. That is how you win, without ever playing the game. Stay sharp. Stay disciplined. Stay in command of yourself. Anchor this within you. What you allow repeatedly becomes your reality. If you allow inconsistency, you will experience confusion. If you allow disrespect, you will experience frustration. If you allow emotional games, you will live in constant uncertainty. So you become intentional about what you allow. You don't wait for things to get worse before you act. You recognize early signs, and you adjust immediately. That is awareness combined with discipline. Another principle: stop trying to be understood by everyone. Not everyone will see your value. Not everyone will align with your mindset. And that is fine. Your job is not to convince. Your job is to remain consistent in who you are. The right people don't need long explanations. They recognize clarity when they see it. Also, understand the importance of emotional neutrality. You don't need to become cold. You don't need to become distant. You need to become neutral. Balanced. In control. You don't get too high when someone gives attention, and you don't get too low when they pull it away. You remain steady. and that steadiness removes their ability to influence your state. Another truth: attention loses value when it is always available. If you are constantly present, constantly responding, constantly accessible, there is no space for appreciation to grow. Space creates perspective. Distance creates clarity. So you don't disappear out of manipulation, you create space out of self-respect. You live your life fully, without centering it around someone else's behavior. Also, measure everything by actions over time. Not words in the moment. Not promises in emotion. But patterns over time. Time exposes everything. It reveals intention, discipline, respect, and truth. Be patient enough to see it. And strong enough to act on it. Finally, remember this. You don't need to force what is meant to align. Anything that requires you to chase, to overthink, to constantly question your position is already out of alignment. Let it go. Make space for what is steady, clear, and mutual. That is where peace lives. Stay grounded. Stay disciplined. Stay focused on your path. Follow me for more Stoic insights that help you move with clarity, think with precision, and live with quiet confidence.